This next article from the New York Post, Buffalo Police Department will no longer require names on uniforms. An upstate New York Police Department will no longer require officers to wear names on their uniforms as a means to protect officers from threat incidences. Buffalo cops will wear an identification number instead of their names as part of a new policy change that went into effect last week. Mayor Byron Brown told WKBW the move comes as rioters who are rioting against the accidental killing of Breonna Taylor and the drug overdose of the methed out black man George Floyd, because it's only politically correct to be able to say methed out white dude. You can't say methed out black dude. So the dude that was banging the fentanyl and the meth, that was really drunk and was recovering from COVID. He actually couldn't breathe because of, I don't know, was it the fentanyl or the meth or the COVID? I don't know. As far as I'm aware, they haven't acquitted the officers. Now, I do know they've tried to submit motions to acquit them. I haven't heard anything about the motions. Courts, the wheels of justice turn very slowly in court sometimes. But definitely wasn't the cops that killed George Floyd. Might have been the meth. Might have been COVID. Probably was the fentanyl. So definitely routine complaints about law enforcement encounters with officers who don't have obvious identification, CNN reported. Amid heightened tensions between public and police, Brown is concerned that his officers' names with personally identifying information will end up online, be used maliciously, the outlet reported. Definitely, these people want to kill police officers. They think they're white supremacists, and they think that they're justified in murdering them because some of their, it's not even their people who they've killed. They heard of somebody that they support that the police killed. So then that justifies them killing cops to get back at them. That's how fucked up these people are. So I think that this is great. So people are under the impression that police officers have to identify themselves to you. This is not actually true. This has never actually been true. No. Police officers have to identify themselves to the person that they're arresting, or else that person might get off on the charges. Right? Like the Miranda rights thing? Right. Yeah. So they don't have to identify themselves to you. For instance, you're sitting on the side of the road and you see a cop car driving by you. Does that cop legally have to identify himself to you? How about an undercover cop? All right, so it's quite obvious that the cop driving by does not need to identify himself. They can be an undercover cop in an undercover cop car going to go do an undercover investigation to bust a perp. So the idea that they need to show who they are to everybody, this is insane. Not only is it insane, it's extremely dangerous. I'm going to have to commend the Buffalo Police Department. This was not something that was on my radar until I saw this article. When did this come out? 25th. So that was actually, it's yesterday now, but yeah, so this is actually very, very recent. Big ups to Buffalo Police Department for thinking about this. That was a wonderful idea. When these police officers are strolling down the street, you see a police identification number on these people's cars. Makes intuitive sense to even the most casual observer that we would probably also too want to identify the officers in the same regards to protect them and their family so that they don't have BLM Antifa Nazi terrorists showing up to their house trying to kill them. One case, in example, this guy was a judge, but there's not really too much of a difference in the eyes of the people who are getting shot. But a judge, I forget where, they were involved in what case? Wasn't it the Epstein case? Somebody came to their house and killed their child. So their child, I think it was a boy, went to go answer the door and somebody shot through the door and just murdered the kid because his judge was involved in the case. And then, of course, the world goes nuts thinking that assassin came to kill the judge in the Epstein case. I can't say that that's false, but it definitely seems as people who judges rule against oftentimes want to kill the judges, which is deplorable. Judges only doing their capacity of what they're there to do. It's what's life going to be like without the judge there? I mean, you got to think about that. People are so upset about the judge for just ruling on what they think the law is. And really, you should be upset at the law. That's what I've learned in my experience. I've definitely been in the position where I've been very, very lividly angry at judges. I had my child taken away, custody given to the maternal grandmother after her daughter neglected my son because they said I used a baby monitor and that I was hanging out with a friend at my house in the studio behind the house while my son was asleep in the house. And then I yelled at the grandma. I threatened to stop talking to her, called her a bitch, a dumb fat bitch, to be exact. And then they took my kid with a preponderance of the evidence. You're supposed to use clear and convincing evidence to deprive someone of their fundamental federally protected rights. But Democrats like to experiment with liberalism and like try to give fairness to everyone. And then it just doesn't work. And so instead of using clear and convincing evidence, no, they said, no, grandmother's an equal party because she had watched the child. My son lived with her when my son's mother was there. So then that means that she's a psychological parent. This is why I despise Democrats, is because they do this shit over and over and over again. What does this have to do with the article? Fairness, police. These people will be obsessed with fairness. I know from my experience in the court, after that, I wanted to kill that judge. I wanted to. I had fantasized about it. I had it all plotted out. I had all the drones and technology that I needed to burn people's eyes out, set people on fire. When that stuff happens to you, it makes you, it really does turn you into a different person. That's totally not my MO. My MO is peace, pot, and the microdot. But when people go through these court trials, they start lividly hating people. And so you almost think maybe we should start referring to judges by these numbers too. Because I think a lot of times people, they get so lost in the anthropomorphization of things, like the human story, that it just overwhelms their psyche, overwhelms their decision making, and then they start doing terrorist activities. And so this is what the left is doing. This is why you should walk away from the radical left, because people in the radical left do this when they feel like they have not been treated fairly, when they believe that somebody has taken something from them. They will then reply with violence. And so this is why fairness is a drug. And it's something that you should, I mean, of course, we should be reasonable with people. But the reality of the world is that if you're fair to everyone else, what you will find out is no one will be fair to you, because the world is not a very fair place. And if you actually do end up with some good luck, you probably just shouldn't just give it away to everybody. You should probably be pretty frugal with that and save it, because it might be the last end of good luck that you have. It might be a big pot of money now. It can dwindle into a really small pot of money very quickly. Trust me on that one. So, you do have to set up rules so they're biased in your favor. And what does that have to do? I think I'm on a tangent. I'm sorry. Nowhere near. So this is whatever they say in these articles. The move comes as protesters who are demonstrated against the police involved killing Breonna. That's called fluff. Whenever you see stuff like this, it means the rest of the junk, this is junk. This was fluff. So the entire story was Buffalo Police Department will no longer require names on the uniform. There's 1 or 2 paragraphs, and then the rest of it is regurgitated bullshit. It says, amid heightened tensions of public and the police, Brown is concerned with his officers' names. Other personally identifications will end up being used maliciously. And so whenever you see that, pretty much the rest of it is bullshit. Like here, like while doxing has become a growing concern ever since nationwide demonstrations erupted end of May, advocates for police transparency say officers must easily identify because of the power they hold. So they're just regurgitating it, saying because they're trying to fit their quota of we got to get X number of pages of free articles so we can get Y numbers of subscriptions. This is why the news tends to be fake, because a lot of times they'll try to push a political narrative. So they'll try to say a story. They're trying to tell the story from both sides so that they can get people from the other side to click on the subscribe button. And so you got to watch out for that shit. If the bottom line isn't up front, it's called fake news.